Hey guys, it's Brit, and I'm talking about Star Wars today, specifically the prequel trilogy. And I know not a lot of people like the prequel trilogy, and that's perfectly justified. The prequels were not the best, and there was a lot to be improved upon. But are they as bad as everybody says they are? Because I don't think they're as bad as they say they are. And how could they have been improved? Well, first of all, the script. The script, the script in and of itself wasn't believable. So a lot of people say, oh, Hayden Christensen ruined Anakin. He made him a little bitch. A whiny bitch, and there was wooden acting, etc., etc. I'm gonna go into that. I'll expand upon this part later on in the video, but no. Hayden Christensen did not ruin Anakin, okay? Hayden Christensen was given a role to play. And the role that he was given, the script that he was given, wasn't very good. You can give the most talented actor a bad script, and they will seem like they are doing a poor job because there's nothing to work with. If you're not writing believable dialogue, then how can you say believable dialogue? And this is just as much the fandom's fault and George Lucas's fault as it is some of the casting. I thought that Hayden did a really good job with what he was given. And like it or not, when you picture Anakin, you picture Hayden Christensen, okay? Like, you picture his face, and the man is really good at facial emotion, which is really difficult to do. If you watch Star Wars on mute, or in French, or some other language with English subtitles, it's not that bad. And the prequels, they have a few things going for them. The story isn't one of them, but the visual effects, though sort of dated now, are still stunning. Especially Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. That was beautiful. Like, the whole Mustafar fighting and the fighting between Obi-Wan and Anakin, the Master and the Apprentice are fighting. They're at war with each other. They're fighting to the death. That was cool. Alright? Dialogue, not so much. And let's go talk about George Lucas. A lot of people that say, oh, the prequels are shit, also fail to acknowledge that the original Star Wars dialogue wasn't always that believable either. If you're going to fault the prequels for poor dialogue, you have to be fair. And in order to be fair, you have to accept that both are flawed. And I know a lot of people don't like to do that. But the one thing that the original trilogy had going for it was that the actors actually had things to interact with. This became less and less as the prequels went on. Phantom Menace, they were better. They had some real actual sets to work with. They had Yoda as a puppet, which was later digitally remastered because George Lucas can't stop touching it. But that was a prop that they could actually interact with. Okay, so I come from a film background, so I know a lot of this stuff could have been easily fixed, but George Lucas was he had tunnel vision. Okay, he had this big plan, and he tried to do too much with his big plan. By the time episode 3 came, Phantom Menace it was okay. It could have been a whole lot better. But it's not as bad as people say. I can't watch Attack the Clones just because the dialogue is probably the worst in that movie. There's the line about sand and Let's not talk about Attack the Clones, even though that's a pretty important movie. Let's just focus on episode 3, okay? Okay. So, episode 3 is the one that everybody's been waiting for. Finally. Everything is going to tie in, and it's going to make sense. And it sort of did that. George Lucas kind of dug himself into a really hard position because while he said that he had everything planned out from the beginning, I don't think he did. I think he just wanted to make 4, 5, and 6. And then when he finally decided that he wanted to make the prequels, he realized that he had dug himself into a hole, and now he has to connect those stories. To quote George Lucas directly, they need to rhyme with one another. And they do. You've got the characters. You've got a young Obi-Wan. Ewan McGregor did a great Obi-Wan. I think one of the main reasons why why Ewan McGregor got cast as Obi-Wan, besides the fact that he's fantastic. Okay, so this is generally speaking. I'm gonna get kind of close to the camera. Okay, so when they're trying to cast younger versions of selves or children for family members, they try to take what they call the triangle of the face. So that's the eyebrows down to the nose, right? Okay. So here and here. Does that make sense? Yeah. They try to get this part right, at least. And Ewan McGregor is spot on for that triangle. If you take a picture of Ewan McGregor and you overlay it with Sir Alec Guinness, that triangle is there. So, yeah. There's an argument that there is quote-unquote wooden acting, and there is, but that's not entirely the fault of the actors. That also is bad directing. I already said that the script was shit, and that did not help matters. Hayden Christensen, I've never seen the guy in much else, but you also have to remember he was very young and inexperienced, so he's been given bad directing. And what you have to understand is sometimes the actors are scared to go against the advice of the director. And George Lucas had a lot of help with the original trilogy. A lot of people don't know that, but he had a lot of help writing that and directing it, etc. And even then, it wasn't perfect. Like, can you take Governor Tarkin? I thought I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board. Can you really make that sound believable? In the prequel trilogy, they also didn't have the lovely late Carrie Fisher doctoring up that script for them, and I think it's unfair that people hate on these prequels as much as they do, and specifically on Hayden. And let's use this water bottle, Dr. Pepper bottle, as an example. Okay, so the main problem with the prequels, like I said, was most of that set was either a blue screen or a green screen, depending on what they were shooting or where they were shooting. And the green screen is fairly small, and it doesn't give you a lot to interact with. And when you don't have a lot to interact with, that makes your job that much harder. Like, okay, so you know how I don't have one of these on me right now, but usually during scenes like this, because they want to put as much of the budget as they can to CGI, usually they have like this little ball on a stick for CGI props so the actor has something to look at. And a lot of let's take interacting with Yoda as an example. So you're talking to Yoda, and you have to use a bit of your imagination, right? Because this obviously isn't Yoda. And it's also quite a distraction, because this isn't Yoda. This is Dr. Pepper bottle. So, Master Yoda, you and I are having a conversation, right? We're supposed to be having a conversation. I'm supposed to be going to you for advice, and I'm also really, really inexperienced. And this is one of my first jobs. But I'm supposed to be having this conversation with you and have it realistic while also having unrealistic dialogue to deliver. Would you be able to do that? Because it's hard, and I think Game of Thrones is starting to suffer from this a lot as well. Like, Emilia Clarke also seems really unexperienced, and I don't think she's a good fit for Daenerys. I think some of it might have to do with the writing, but all the scenes where she's interacting with a dragon is usually that going back again to that little ball. She's not riding a dragon. She's in front of a green screen, sitting on this essentially mechanical bull. And she is expected to not only deliver dialogue in English, but also in a language that, while you can learn it, it doesn't... It's a real language, but on top of everything that is going on, it's hard to interact with something that isn't there. And I think that's the biggest fault with the prequel trilogy, going back to Star Wars. Even Samuel L. Jackson, we know that man can act. And his Mace Windu was pretty monotone. And Ewan McGregor was probably the best casting decision that they made for that movie, because if the Obi-Wan and Anakin relationship isn't believable, which I think the animation for Clone Wars does a lot better, it's the way George Lucas wrote the two interacting. You don't see friendship, you see a rivalry. And so when it comes time that these two friends are at war with one another, there's no... Prior to that, there was... all you saw was fighting, so it's not gonna have an impact. And I think that's the biggest fault. George Lucas concentrated too much on the visual effects and what he wanted to do with those visual effects, and so the overall story suffered. Alright guys, this video was a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but I'm gonna go. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video.